Hello and welcome to Fearless Authenticity with me, Jeanne Sparrow. This is my podcast about finding our biggest source of success in who we are. These are conversations and maybe some meditations on what it looks and feels like when we use our unique gifts to find our passions, make our dreams come true, and engage with the world in the way that we were created to and serve others. I hope this gets deep because it's where we find the best stuff. But don't get it twisted. It's about the fun of life, because if it ain't fun, it ain't worth doing. So let's dare to be brave, be free, be you together. My guest today is a 5-time Emmy-winning sportscaster who has been at this game for almost 45 years and is still going strong despite setbacks that would have sidelined lesser men. He has been inducted into the Chicago Sports Hall of Fame, CPS Basketball Hall of Fame, State of Illinois Basketball Hall of Fame, and has even had his own day declared both in Chicago and in the state of Illinois. He began his career on the radio on historic WVON and WBMX, moved to television on Fox 32, and is currently the host of Sports Edition on WCIU and MeTV. His calling card in sports broadcasting is getting the most coveted one-on-one interviews with the biggest names in sports, politics, and entertainment, from Jordan to Obama. I am proud to welcome to the Fearless Authenticity podcast, the one, the only, Kenny McReynolds. Kenny!
Well, Jeanne, you made me sound so old, but you said I've been doing this for 45 years, but I want people to remember, baby when I started. I was a teenager. I don't think I had 45 years, but I don't know how long it's been, but it's been a lot of fun. And I don't do these. I don't do podcasts. I don't do interviews. Very seldom do I do them. But for you, I could never say no to Jeanne Sparrow, my buddy. Every time I see Jeanne, we have a running joke. I ask her to marry me. She says no. Then we finish our conversation and the rest of our day. And,
one day I'm going to mess you up and I'm going to say yes.
And I'm gonna fall out. I'm gonna do my Fred Sanders. Oh. But now,
well, you know what, Kenny? I am honored that you said yes to me, because like you are one of those people that you talk monstrous mess. Like you talk so much mess, and it's one of my favorite things about you that you do talk stuff, but that you are consistent and you back up what you talk about. And that's the thing I think people misunderstand about you, is that like you, no matter what you've been through, no matter what you're doing, you are having fun and you trying to make other people have fun too. And that is a beautiful thing. And you don't let anything deter you from that.
Life is fun. Let's face it. You remember my daughter died. She was 7 years old. She just came in the house and dropped dead. I mean, that's the worst thing that could ever happen to anybody, is to lose a child, especially when you didn't know she was sick, when she just came in and dropped dead. So my thing is, I woke up today. What do I have to complain about? It's a beautiful day. Every day I get up, I play Bill Withers. It's a lovely day. I've had 45 operations, Jeanne. You know, in 2017, I died. They brought me back. I woke up to the doctor saying, let's call it official date of death. But I'm still here. So yeah, I have fun. I enjoy life. I don't think I talk a lot of smack, but I do enjoy life. I just think life's a beautiful thing. I don't drink. I've never have. I don't smoke. I never have. I don't do drugs. I never have. I'm just naturally energetic about life, because life is so short. You never know how long we have. So my thinking is, enjoy it while you have, because you could not have told me my daughter would drop dead in the living room at the age of 7 years old. So she can't wake up today. I did. If it's raining outside, get an umbrella. If it's snowing outside, put on some boots. We got nothing to complain about. Life is beautiful. It's always, in my opinion, a lovely day.
I love that, Kenny. And I remember when you lost your daughter, and I remember how hard that was at that time for you and your family. And I've remembered a lot, like we have joked about you having 9 lives because, and you having used up a lot of them, because you have been through so many things physically. And, I was going to wait to talk about that part, but let's start there. Like, besides the loss of your daughter and that kind of crystallizing your gratefulness for your gratitude for being here on this planet, and your insistence on making the best of every moment. What is the thing that keeps you determined and keeps you trying? Because I know that you have been in pain that other people could not experience. I know that you have gotten well and then gotten really sick again and still come back. What is the process? What is because you've just explained the attitude, but how do you do that? How do you come? Because there are people that get sidelined for far less rather, because it impacts them so hard and they don't know a way back. And you keep doing it over and over again. How do you do that?
Well, Jeanne, I don't know how I do it. I've had 44 operations total. As we talked about briefly, I actually died. Woke up to the doctor saying, "Hey, let's call it official date of death."
You're also a cancer survivor.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about cancer: breast cancer, arm cancer, testicular cancer, colon cancer, cancer right here, cancer on my arm in April. But I think I prayed a lot. I really did. And the one thing, Jeanne, I don't want to do, I do not want my mother to have to go through what I went through, but losing a child. I'm very fortunate. My mother's still with us. She's doing great. And that's the worst thing in the world. So when I'm in the hospital, I've been in the hospital 17, 18 days at a time, 20 IVs in me, doctors saying you're going to die. But I always prayed a lot that I did not want my mom to go through what I went through. Now, Jessica was 7 years old when she died. Obviously, I'm a grown man. But to your mother, you're still your mother's child. And I don't want my mother to bury me. I don't want her to go through what I had to go through when I buried my daughter. I prayed a lot, and there's a deep down will in me. I think a lot of that comes from playing sports. I did not want to quit. Even when I played ball, I wanted to win every time I played. I didn't want to beat you. I wanted to kill you. That was my will to win. Seriously, I never wanted to beat anybody I always played. I wanted to kill them because that was my mentality. But the easy thing for me, Jeanne, let's go back to 2017 when I got really, really sick. I got really, really sick. I had the tumor on my arm. I can show you the scar. I don't know if you can see the scar there.
Wow. You've never shown me that one.
Yeah, I've never shown anybody. So
that's wild.
Yeah, this scar had a tumor this big. So they take the tumor off. It wasn't easy. Then I come home. Then I got really, really sick. I got super sick. I didn't know where I was. I got so sick. My temperature was like 103, 104. My boss, Fred Weintraub, who called me up to see how I was doing. I told him I was getting packed. I was going on a victory tour. I thought I was Michael Jackson. I didn't know where I was. I didn't know who I was. So he called 911 and told him to break down my door. But I live in a building, so my mother's under me. She see the police coming and the fire department with axes. The hell you doing breaking down my door? She said, well, we got an emergency call for Kenny McReynolds. She said, I got a key. So they come in, but I had my burglar alarm on. So it's really funny. I don't remember any of this. My mother's telling me this. So then the police come because the burglar alarm went off. The paramedics are like, we got to get to the hospital. Police said, well, nobody can leave here until we get the code. But my mother didn't know the code. We can't leave. And they're like, we got to get him to the hospital. This guy's dying. So I thought it was Michael Jackson. So my mother said, Michael, baby, what's the code? And I gave her the code. So I gave her the code. And they went old school with me. They got bags of ice and packed it on me while I went to the hospital. I had 20 IVs on me. When I went, Fred said it looked like a Christmas tree. I couldn't sit down. Jeanne, my nephew, Evan, bless his soul, held me up in the hospital for 7 hours. Because when I would sit down, I was drowning in my own mucus. When they took the tumor off, it formed like the worst pneumonia you could get. And then they called in a crisis team. They didn't know what to do. Like 9 doctors line up and ask you, what are you going to do? What should you do? One lady looked at me, a lady doctor, I don't know what to do. I said, what the hell are you asking me for? I don't know what to do either. You're the doctor. So, then as you know, I have a bad heart. I've had several heart operations. So they hooked me up to the monitor. They call my cardiologist at home. He comes down to the hospital. He says, don't mess with his heart. So all of a sudden you hear the people, heart rate down to 20, heart rate down to 18, his heart rate's down to 12, make a decision. What are you going to do? We're losing him. His heart rate's down to 10. And I told my nephew, I'm going to be the only guy to die on the day he gets inducted into the Chicagoland Sports Hall of Fame. So when my heart rate's down to 8, and I know I'm rambling, Jeanne, I'll make this quick.
No, I love this because I've never heard all this detail before about this story. You've only hit the highlights.
Yeah. So my heart rate gets down to 8. And my nephew's holding me up. The doctor trying to decide what to do. You know, and I still got an arm full of stitches and a bleeding tube. Plus, then I can't stand up. Temperature 103. They had cut my clothes off. They didn't take them off. They cut them off. So I look up, and there's a guy about this short. He's got a police uniform on. He's a security guard. So I said, dude, what you doing here? I'm like, what you doing here? He's like, dude, what are you doing here? My nephew said, Kenny, don't worry about it. His heart rate down to 6. Make a decision. Dude, what are you doing here? You really want to know? Yes. Well, Mr. McReynolds, if you're a celebrity, they want me to guard your body when you die until your family comes to claim it. I said, can I die first? I threw him out. And when my heart rate, I heard him get down to 4. Next thing I know, I was waking up in bed, and the doctor had his back to me. And he said, let's call it official date of death, October 2nd, 2017, official time of death, 1709. And I'm over my eye like, who died? And my nephew's like, look, his eyes are open, he's talking, he's moving his lips. And the doctor says, oh shit, incubate him. So, you know, he knocked my teeth out, incubate me. And from what I understand, now I wasn't here, they gave me the compressions and then they gave me the paddles. But I didn't respond after the 3rd time. So when he turned his back to tell the nurse, let's call it, that's when I responded. But I didn't respond right away. So he didn't think I was going to respond. But even at that time when I knew I was dying and my nephew had to hold me up, I was fighting within myself like, I'm not going to die. I'm not going to die. I refuse to die. I'm not going to die. Let's go. Give me another shot. I'm not going to die. I'm not ready to die yet. I was in the hospital 17 days. I had 20 IVs in me. I had so many IVs in me, I ran out of veins. They started putting them in my leg. They just ran out of room, and they didn't know what to do. But I think, long story short, in this case, short story long, was that it was the will to win, to not to die. And so, Andre Dawson, the Hall of Famer, accepted my award that night. And he came over to the room afterward. They brought my plaque with Evan and my mother and them. And I didn't get scared until I saw Andre crying. When I saw Andre Dawson crying, that made me scared. Ooh, I must really be sick. Because Andre doesn't cry. You know, he's a big, strong baseball player.
The Hawk.
And that made me, that scared me. Really, really scared me. And, but I just had this will, Jeanne. I did not want to die. I've had breast cancers. I've had so many different operations, 6 heart operations. I just kept saying, I want to keep living. And several hospitals have asked me, can they have my body after I die? Because they want to see what's inside of me, that keeps getting sick. But more importantly, is there something inside of me that keeps me wanting to come back and not giving up, coming back for that will to keep being here. Just I can be here with you. I can be here with the Sparrow, But,
Kenny, that is amazing. Because we were working together when that happened. I remember when that happened. And I remember Fred, I think it was Fred, who was like, I don't know what's going on with Kenny. I'm scared we're going to lose him because he was distraught. He was distraught.
Yeah, Fred came to the hospital all the time. And he, I know he came back to the station and told everybody, get your speeches ready because he ain't gonna make it. But I will say one time the doctor told my mom, we got him back, but get your family down here. He's not going to stay. He's not going to be with you long. And my mother said, well, I can go home now. And the doctor said, why? She said, because he's so stubborn. You just said he's going to die. I know he's going to live. So I'm going home and go to bed.
Is your mom like that too? Do you think that's who you got that from?
No question about it. My mom caught COVID-19. And she's 82 years old. She was in the hospital for 3 months. And the doctor told me, prepare for the worst and pray for the best. Me and my mother go walking 3 miles every morning. And the only reason we stop because I get tired, not her. So I think that's where I got it from. My mom, no question in my mind. That's where it came from. But wherever it came from, I'm glad to still be here. And I just tell people all the time, it's a lovely day. There's no problem at all. We don't know how long we're going to be here. So let's have fun, enjoy life, and make the best out of every situation because someone is always worse off than you. As bad as I was in the hospital, there were a lot of people that walked out of that hospital on a gurney in a plastic bag. I didn't. So I got nothing to complain about, Jeanne. It's a lovely day.
That's
a lovely
beautiful.
day.
I am curious about one thing, and it's something I never thought to ask you before. Did you feel the presence of the other side? Did you have like a near-death experience where you see the lights and all that stuff that people talk about? No?
No, people ask me that all the time.
I never thought about it before.
Yeah. Oh, you're about the 1 millionth person to ask me that. I said, no, I didn't. And I think Reggie Theus, the former Bull player, he had the best. He said, man, you died and nobody wanted you. You didn't see nothing. They sent you back. He said, upstairs didn't want you, downstairs didn't want you, purgatory didn't want you. They sent you back. He said, you didn't see anything, didn't hear anything. Nobody wanted you, so they sent you back. But no, I did not. I did not see anything. I did not experience anything. I just remember them saying his heart is down to 4. And I remember waking up. And when they do the compressions, they break your ribs. So I had a broken rib, and then I had the real sore from the paddles. But it was a very strange night. Not a night I would want anyone to go through, but I wouldn't want anybody to go through breast cancer. I wouldn't want anybody to go through leg cancer, bone cancer, testicular cancer, colon cancer. So I've been through all of that. And I wouldn't want that to happen to anybody. I've had 19 knee operations, 2 hip operations, 7 heart operations. So these are things that I wouldn't want anybody to go through. But if you do go through them, don't give up. Just say, hey, I'm here. I'm going to fight this. I can beat this. And hey, it's a lovely day. Everything happens for a reason. I don't question why things happen. I did question why my daughter dropped dead at the age of 7. But I came to grips with that a couple of years afterwards. And the bad thing was, Jeanne, as you remember when Jessica died, they didn't know why she died.
Yeah.
She went to preschool today. The day before, I took her to Kittyland. And that day, she went to her day camp. They had day camp. And then she came to the house and died. And then it was chitomendonitis, which now, that sounds familiar because people with coronavirus are now having chitomendonitis, the heart. It affects the heart, and it's a virus that goes right to your heart. And she just dropped dead, so she didn't know she was sick, and we didn't either. But
and I'm sure that was painful to when you, especially when you don't have an answer. Like it's hard. I would imagine that is the worst thing that could possibly happen to anybody, but then not even having an explanation. Like, I think it's one thing if your child has been sick, that's hard enough, but then to add to it that there's no explanation for it, and then you're just left with no answers.
Took 3 months to get an answer. The coroner was a lady, and she would just refuse to give up. And she called it on Thanksgiving weekend. Jessica died in August, so we went from August to November, not knowing why she died. And the cardiologist, the lady that did the autopsy, the coroner, she called and said, I found it, and told us, so we can get some closure.
Yeah. What do you think of all of these different things that you've had? And you've had other disappointments as well, because you were an athlete in high school. You weren't able to go to the Olympics. But you still kept at sports. You still kept your love of sports. What do you think of all of those different things that you've had, both medical, professional, and, in broadcast, nothing is guaranteed. So we've all gotten our knocks with that one, which I'm sure must seem small, but in comparison, but at the time may have meant something to you. What do you think is the biggest of those challenges that you faced? And did you ever, you sound so positive now in retrospect, but was there a moment in the middle of some of those challenges where you went, this might take me out?
Well, I think the most disappointing one was not being able to go to the Olympics, because Jimmy Carter boycotted the Olympics that had nothing to do with athletes. I ran track and field. So we're out there doing what we're supposed to do. We put in hours on track. You had a guy like Mark Aguirre, who would have been on the basketball team. The athletes had nothing to do with politics. That was the one that I still to this day do not like, that I say would have taken me out. I'm like, why go through all this training? Why go through do everything you're supposed to do, and then but nothing you had no control over, you can't go? That was very disappointing. And of course, in broadcasting, let's face it, I mean, you know how that is. You're nobody until you're fired in broadcasting. I lost a job at Fox because I didn't play football. When the NFL came to Fox, she called me in the office and said, "We're going to hire an ex-football player. It had nothing to do with you, but he played for the Bears. So, and the NFL is coming to Fox." I was like, "What?" Yeah, they got nothing to do with you, not your work, but the NFL is coming to Fox. I need a football player. I lost a job for a lot of different reasons, but never because I didn't play football. Now, if the NBA came to Fox and you're a basketball guy, we'd have kept you. But I've had great jobs, assistant coach at DePaul. I've had great life, great jobs, but the Olympics really hurt, Jeanne. That really. And then you get a phone call. They invite you to the White House to watch the opening ceremonies. What the hell? I'm gonna go to the White House to watch the opening ceremonies for not to be there.
Have you forgiven Jimmy Carter though? He a good person. He's done a lot of good work.
I don't give a damn what he done. I never forgive him. I don't give a damn.
Like literally, of all the presidents you can stay mad at, that's the one you picking. That's the hill we dying on, Kenny.
That's the hill we dying on. That's the hill we dying on. Matter of fact, I want my tombstone. Couldn't stand Jimmy Carter.
I'm a facilitate a reconciliation. That's gonna be happening.
Well, but it just didn't seem fair that the athletes.
Absolutely.
I'm not just talking to me, but
right.
All the athletes went through all the training. You make the team. You do what you're supposed to do, but you can't go for something that had nothing to do with sports, politics. Hey, if you got something against Russia or whatever, y'all handle that. Let us go compete. But then you get invited to the White House to watch the ceremonies. Man, I didn't even watch the Olympics that year. I don't even know who won. Right. I can't even tell you who won anything in 1980.
You just kind of blocked that whole thing out.
Blocked that whole thing. And see, you got to remember, I was a teenager. I was a baby. So I'm a teenager then. So I'm really radical. Like, they're going to take me out. I can't believe this. But that hurt a lot. That hurt. I would say getting fired for not being a football player hurt a lot too. I think every time you get fired, I was at BMX Sports forever. Then we lost that job for no reason. But
you were at GCI. That's how we met.
Because
you were still GCI. Working with Doug when Doug left BMX. They might have got rid of you, but not that long after you were at GCI. So
then Elroy let me go.
But you know what though, Kenny, you keep working. And that's the beautiful thing. When, especially given how your sports career ended for yourself, playing, running, and that sort of thing. Let's talk about your career though, and shifting into broadcast and how, like, was there a moment when you knew that was the thing for you? And that's okay. Tell me about that moment.
Okay. Well, remember, Jeanne, I hurt my knees. So back in those days, we didn't always have scope. By the way, the first arthroscopic surgery in Chicago on knees was performed on me, but we had cuts. When you get those cuts, man, it's hard to come back. So I knew after about 3 or 4 operations, I wasn't going to play pro sports. So I said, you know what? I really love sports. I don't ever want to work. I don't want to have a job. So I want to stay in sports. So I said, why not be a sportscaster? People say, hey, man, you got a great voice. You should be a sportscaster. But there were no black radio doing sports. So I went to the Oak Park Arms Hotel. People don't believe that. The old WBMX on top of the old folks' home that was owned by Al Capone. And I knocked on the door. And they're like, what? I said, let me talk to the news director. Her name was Steen King. I said, you know what? Anytime I want to hear sports on the radio, I got to turn to WLS, WCFL. Why can't I listen to a black radio station? And she said, well, we don't do that right now. I said, well, I'm a youngster. I'm in school. Can I hang out? She said, yeah, hang out. Every day I went up to that station, whatever they needed to do. I emptied the garbage. I went to McDonald's. I swept the floors. I went to Burger King. I went changed the ribbon in the typewriter back then with typewriters. Whatever they wanted me to do. So one day they said, Kenny, since you're not going anywhere, we're going to give you a break. We're going to let you do sports in the morning. I'm going to pay you $7 a day. I took it. The best $7 a day I took, and I did things, the morning sports. Then I would broadcast the 5 o'clock news from a high school basketball game. We did interview some of the little tape recording. We unscrew it and put the little clips on there and feed the actuality of the athlete back over the radio. Talk about, so-and-so, Mark McGwire scored 23 points today, and then punch up Mark McGwire or somebody like that. So that's how I got started. Because Jeanne, I figured out one day I was at home saying, man, my knees are shot. I can outrun and outjump surgery a normal person, but I can't do it on a professional level. What am I going to do? So I said, I want to do sports, but I had to get in the door. I felt it was easier on the inside looking out than on the outside looking in. So I said, I'll do anything. I esteem King to this day. She said, okay. I emptied everybody's garbage. Man, you put a piece of gum wrap in the garbage, I was there, shoo, gone. You hungry? McDonald's down the street? I'll be right back. Ran to McDonald's, no matter what they did. And they just told me, said, you will not go away. We're going to give you a shot to do what you want to do. Now then BMX, then VON, GCI, back to VON, back to GCI. And it was really cool. It was the best decision I ever made was to work for free because I wanted to get inside.
And that kind of persistence, I think, is what, especially of our generations, that's how a lot of that happened. Many of us worked for little or nothing 7 days a week to get the shot. I used to say that I worked when I was, and I've said this a couple times, I think on this podcast, where I worked to support my radio habit when I first, that's what I called it, because it certainly wasn't paying the bills, but it was fulfilling me. So that kind of persistence, that determination that keeps you alive, that will, that you learn from sports, sounds like it translated through. So the question I have for you now, because you have been at this for a long time and have known some amazing people. Your best friend is Andre Dawson. You've interviewed everybody at different points in their careers. Obama and his rise, mayors of Chicago, people who sit down to talk to you. What is the best thing that anybody has said to you? Best piece of advice, best thing you've heard them say, best philosophy from any of those folks, or somebody just in your personal life?
I tell you what, there's two things. The best philosophy I've ever heard came from Walter Payton. He told me, when you're good at something, you tell people. When you're great at something, people tell you. And you will never hear me say, I'm the best this, I'm the best that. Now, if you say it, that's cool. I will say I work hard, but I never say I'm the best anything. He said, when you're great at something, they'll tell you. When you're good at something, you tell them. And I think out of all the people I've interviewed, it's going to sound weird. Mural Hodges, the former Bear fullback and ESPN star, had a book out. He came on the show. I read, they come on Sports Edition. If you have a book, you must send me the book because I read every book before the author comes on. So I'm talking to Mural Hodges, and I said, yeah, in page 42, you talked about driving down the East Expressway going to training camp, and you lost your sight. And he says, Kenny, stop. I said, yeah, what's wrong? He says, thank you for reading my book. He said, because you would be surprised how many interviews I've done, and no one had read the book. They were asking me, what's in the book? Thank you for reading the book. That meant so much to me that here's the guy who wrote the book, realized that I read it, and that's part of my homework, and that meant a lot to me. And also Carl Weathers, who played Apollo Creed, he did the entire half hour with me. He said it was probably one of the most enjoyable interview that he'd ever done because we didn't get to Rocky until segment 4. We talked about his pro football career, and his first acting job happens to be My Favorite Good Time.
I remember that one.
Yeah. The Nude, season 2, episode 16. It aired on Valentine's Day.
How do you remember this stuff? How do you remember this stuff, Kenny?
Hey, he was so impressed. I repeated every one of his lines back to him. What are you doing here, babe? Who is he? Who's the dude? This beats my time. This beats my time. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. And he was just floored. He was like, I don't believe it. What he did, he said, Kenny, I like you so much. They had one of the Law and Orders in Chicago. The Chicago Law and Order he did. He said, I'm going to get you a speaking part on our next show. NBC called me the next day and said, Carl said he wants you to be on the show, but we're halfway through the final episode. But if we get renewed, we'll bring you in for season 2, episode 1. Unfortunately, they did not get renewed. But I did have a chance to do a couple of Law and Order SVUs, which I was really happy to be able to do. But I think Walter Payton telling me that when you're good at something, you tell people. When you're great at something, people tell you. And just the fact that Mural Hodges stopped me mid-interview and said, thank you for reading my book. That he recognized that I was well prepared. Like
that has happened to me a couple times. And I've also been on the other end where the publisher doesn't send you the book in time and all you have time to do is skim it and you feel terrible because you're like, this person made the effort to write these words down. And now that I am writing a book, I'm like, I know what happens, but it does mean a lot. And that sort of preparation and care, I think speaks to how you've been able to stay at this so long and why other people want to talk to you. But what is the best piece of advice that you've ever received or given, or maybe both?
Jeanne, I think someone else would have to tell you the best piece of advice I've ever given, because I may have said something to somebody, they didn't like it. So that I would have to give to somebody else. I think the best piece of advice I ever received was from my mom back a long time ago. She said, aim it and claim it. When I'm going to a job interview, she said, well, aim it and claim it. Simple. She said, aim it, you got it in your eyesight, aim for it and claim it. I think I was going to do an interview. I'm going to Loyola University. I was interviewing for color commentary. She was like, aim it and claim it. Whatever you do, just aim it and claim it. Don't walk out of that room without claiming it. And that's worked a lot. That's worked very well for me. Even scouting, I scouted for 3 NBA teams. Aim it and claim it. Do the best you can. And that was really good advice that she gave me. I think the advice I gave someone else, you would have to ask someone else. Because I could say, hey, dude, get an internship, work hard, never take no for an answer. That may not have been what they want to hear. So I think someone else would have to answer that part for me.
That's fair. I'll let you have that one. What do you think is your best quality? The thing that you do better or differently, more uniquely than anybody else that has been the key to your success?
Been able to get interviews. I tell you what, if you remember in 2010, Shawnee Davis became the first Black to win an Olympic winter gold medal. And Shawnee's mother didn't let him talk to anybody. She wouldn't even let the U.S. Olympic Committee use his photo in the yearbook, in the media guide. But I talked him to let Shawnee come on the show. And he did a whole show, half an hour. Shawnee Davis was great because he didn't do interviews. I was able to get that interview. I was able to get Jordan on the show. Do you realize the last 3 city mayors, Daley, Rahm, and Lightfoot, have been in studio on set with me? The last 3 city mayors, the governor, the president. So I think it's been the ability to bug people until I say, okay, to get them to trust me. I think I would really say that has been a very good key to my success. I would never say I'm better than anyone at anything, because that's not me. I will say that I work hard. I've always had a philosophy that you may be better than me, but you will not outwork me. And even when I was scouting, remember, I did 7 years with the Orlando Magic, 5 years with the Charlotte Bobcats, and then 1 year with the Golden State Warriors. And I was always the first scout there, the last one to leave. Because a lot of guys, 2 minutes to go, just pack up and go. They say, Kenny, come on back. You leaving? Nope. Time on the clock. I leave when the clock says 000. That's when I get up and leave. I want to see every possible thing. And you never know who's watching, too. So, I can control how hard I work, Jeanne. You may be better than me, but I really want to make sure that I outwork everybody. Now, if it ain't good enough, it's not good enough. But I can look in the mirror and say, I did the best that I possibly could. That's the most important thing to me.
Wow, Kenny. This is one of the best conversations we have ever had.
Yeah,
it really is.
Serious. Usually we're joking around. Yeah.
Right. And that's what I mean. Like, because you do that. To me, you do that better. And I come from a family that talks mess like that and jokes around and has fun. And you do that better and more consistently than a lot of people I know. And you know what's funny is that I think it also throws people off. Like, there are a few people that that were new to meeting you, that knew I knew you, and we're like, is he for real? And while he seemed like he just talking, and then literally like Jordan walks in or somebody, and they were like, I was like, listen, I'm trying to tell you, don't let that part of Kenny get you confused with the part of Kenny that does the job, okay? Yeah. And it's like, because I remember when I first met you, I was like, I don't even know what to make of you, but I like you. You good people. And I was like, and even though what you say sounds like pie in the sky, I was like, you always came through. So, I couldn't doubt it. Has there ever been anybody that you couldn't get an interview with and or like something that you've wanted to accomplish? I know about the Olympics, but something that you haven't accomplished that you still want to do, some interview you want to get or something you want to do.
One interview I would really like to get, but he's really up in age and you can't see now, I think, Willie Mays. I really want to interview Willie Mays. I have not had a chance to do that. And now he's 90 and he can't see well and he doesn't do anything. And although I knew him not well, and we were at Ernie Banks' funeral together, I'm so upset that I didn't get a picture with Hank Aaron. And Hank was on my mind. And Jeanne, the day Hank died, I had wrote myself a note, call Hank today. And he died that day. And I was just so mad. We were at Ernie Banks' funeral together. Like, a funeral, not a place to get a picture. That wouldn't be right. That's kind of disrespectful to me. That was disappointing. I really would love to interview Willie Mays, but I know he doesn't do anything now because he's not in the greatest of health. But I think other than that, there's not really any one person that I have not interviewed that I would want to. I tell you, my biggest disappointment in life was meeting Don Cornelius. I went to the Soul Train Awards, and we work at Channel 26, and on Don Cornelius Drive, I grew up listening to WVON, a Black View of the News. So after the Soul Train Awards, we go to the private party. And, little young girl, about 20 years old, leading him around by the hand. And I walk up to him, oh my God, Don Cornelius, I've been dying to meet you. I'm Kenny McReynolds. I used to work at WVON where you started, the Black View of the News. I now work at Channel 26 where you started Soul Train. This is one of the biggest honors I've ever had in my life. And he looks at me, so what? And walks away.
Wow.
Now, I don't know if I can say the 4-letter word that I said to him on this podcast, but if it started with an F and ended with a U.
You can say whatever you want, Kenny. You know my mouth.
But that was probably the biggest disappointment that I ever had.
There's always
up and down. Yeah, he looked me up and down like. And I'm like, man, this is like the biggest thrill of my life. I'm talking about working at VON, where you used to do the Black View of the News. Because, VON was the only Black station growing up. I'm at Channel 26, where you started Soul Train. This is such an honor and a privilege. I'm really kissing his butt. I'm like, this is an honor and a privilege. Put my hand out, and he looks at me. And his little 20-year-old girlfriend walks him away. And I walked right in front of his face to see what I had to say to him, and I left. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you got satisfaction. I can
Yeah,
say
I
that
did.
much.
Yeah. I think the only two people that I really don't like in the world would have been, and but Don Cornelius is no longer with us, so I shouldn't be dogging him because he's no longer here. And I thought Steve Harvey when we worked up at GCI. Steve was very rude and mean to me, and I just went to Steve every day. Hey, Steve, how you doing, man? Good to see you. Saw your show, blah blah blah. So when what came out when he did those people at Channel 5 with the Steve Harvey show, don't come to me, don't come near me, don't stay in my dressing room, don't get in the elevator with me. If I worked there, I'd have stayed outside the dressing room every day. What you gonna do? You don't own the damn dressing room. I'd have jumped in the elevator. What you gonna do?
Yeah, now that's another thing I appreciate about you is that your petty is unrivaled. If somebody if somebody gets to you, like what I've seen, it takes a lot to get to you, but once they do, you not letting that part
I ain't
go.
letting it go. Yeah, I got it. Yeah, I just think there's no reason to be a jerk. I don't care how big you are, how small you are. Someone always helped you on the way up. Magic Johnson told me that once. He said, no matter who we are, somebody always helped us. Because when Magic first got the HIV virus, back then that was huge news. His first interview was with Connie Chung. His second interview was with me on Fox at the Chicago Stadium because the Lakers came in town. And he told me, he said, Kenny, look, you my guy. You've been my guy for a long time. I'm going to help you do this because no matter who we are, somebody helped us get to where we are. And I'm going to do this for you, but I want you to remember to help somebody. And Jeanne, as you probably know, because they talked about it on You and Me, I've helped over 100 kids get scholarships. I got a phone message last night from a lady. I don't even know who she is. She got my number. I don't know. Trying to help her the recruiting process for her son playing football. Although I'm more of a basketball guy. But if I can help some kids that fall through the crack get a scholarship, because a lot of coaches, I'll just pick up the phone and say, hey, somebody fell through the cracks and give them a shot. But like Magic said, somebody helped me get here. So what's wrong with me helping somebody else? I've given people the clothes off my back. And one guy had a jacket on. Man, I love that jacket. Here, man, take it. I get another one. No big deal. But if I was a kid, somebody helped me. So if I can help anybody, it doesn't hurt to be nice to people. But just to be a rude asshole, there's no, to me, there's no excuse.
Yeah,
I know that's your boy and all that.
No, what I was going to say, because you know what, here's the thing. What you are saying can be just as true as my good experience. And I think that that's what we're seeing now when all these stories come out, especially with all of these different documentaries that are coming out about different people, is that all of us can have different experiences with people and both sides of those things can be true. And I will never tell anybody that what their experience isn't true. The only thing I can say is that I didn't experience it personally, but I saw it. And I definitely saw it with Don. I remember Don was very intimidating. And he shaped my childhood with Soul Train. And I remember when I went to the Soul Train Awards, Marv Dyson, who was a friend of his back in the day, said, man, listen, he was like, treat Don. He didn't say it in these words, but his basic thing was treat Don with a long handle spoon because he's just not that dude. Like, that's not his personality. That's not who he is. And I believe the same thing is true of Steve, like really talented, very visionary men, but they got stuff with them, just like all of us do. It just comes out in different ways.
Well, and I can even understand having a bad day, but a bad year, a bad lifetime, a bad lifetime.
This is what I love about you, Kenny. Well, I got two last questions.
I never stop a picture. People ask me, I'm eating dinner. Hey, can I get a picture? Okay, come on, let's do it. I'm not gonna be like, get away from me. Don't get in the elevator with me. Oh, so what? Maybe it's just me. I'm not that type of person. Anyway, your last two questions. Go ahead.
I got last two questions. The first one, when I say the words fearless authenticity, what do those words immediately bring to mind for you?
Sparrow.
That's good. That's a very good answer. And I want you to go a little bit deeper. So I'm going to ask this question. This is the last question I ask everybody. When do you feel that you are your best, truest, most authentic expression of Kenny McReynolds? What are you doing? What are you feeling? What are you experiencing?
Probably calling a high school basketball game, which I've called over 2,500. Last Saturday, we had Lori Lightfoot with the girls' championship. We did the CPS boys and girls championship. I love doing color commentary. I probably one of my biggest mistakes was not doing play-by-play, which is what I really want to do, but I got comfortable doing color. But I think when I'm dissecting the game from my coaching career at DePaul, I just feel relaxed. It's enjoyable. It's not at work. I try to talk to the people, not at them. Not like I know everything, but here's what I think should happen. Not that, oh, he blew that. He should have did this. Well, here's what you may want to do. Here's how we draw it up in practice. I think I'm my most relaxed and comfortable self, not only doing my talk show sports edition, but when I'm calling a basketball game, which is something I really love to do.
That is one thing that I will say about you, is that I always feel the love that you have for sports, the love that you have for people, the love that you have for our people.
Yes.
In everything you do, Kenny. So thank you so much. I appreciate you making time for me and for giving me an interview, because as somebody who gets interviews, you're not one to take interviews. So
yeah,
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I don't do it often, but I'll do it for you. And no one has ever seen this scar. This was the one that killed me.
I got an exclusive. I got an exclusive.
Exclusive scar. You know, and it's
I'm
so funny. It's so funny because, you know me, Jeanne, I always wear suits, right? And I always tell people underneath the suits are like 5,000 scars. It looks like a road map, all the lines. But hey, I'm here. It's a lovely day, and it's so great to be with Jeanne Sparrow.
Thank you, Kenny McReynolds. I'm glad you are still on this planet, my brother, and I'm so glad to have known you for as long as I have. Thank you for everything that you have done to encourage me and to show me what joy in work looks like, because I've had a lot of good examples of that, and you are one of them. Thank you, my brother. So I have known Kenny McReynolds for so long, and he is a universe unto himself, but always the most forthcoming, open book kind of person you could ever meet. And that's why I wanted to have him on the podcast. It was really special learning what makes him tick and gives him that amazing perseverance through all the things he's been through. So here are just a few of the things that he said that stuck with me most. That life is fun. And the fact that he can say that directly from the experience of losing his daughter when she was 7, that he can wake up and decide that that day is beautiful because life is beautiful, because he woke up even though she wasn't able to. So it's always going to be that lovely day. And listening to Bill Withers, no matter what the weather is or anything. And we often do focus on those little things and let that get in the way of who we are and expressing what we have to do. You know, a missed day is still a missed day. The best advice that his mom gave him, aim it and claim it. It reminds me of what people talk about when you're hiking and mountain biking. Where you look is where you go. So if you're on a biking trail and you look down, that's exactly where your bike is going. Same thing is true when you're driving a car. You pay attention to a wreck, eventually you're going to be driving toward that wreck. So aim it. So aim your sights on what it is you want, and then claim it and own that. And then that philosophy from Walter Payton: when you're good at something, you tell people. When you're great at something, people tell you. And how he won't talk about being the best at something. He talks about the one thing he knows that he can do well, and that he works hard, and that somebody could be better than him, but they won't outwork him. And then having the will. I think so much of being ourselves is about having the will to show that to people. And that's courage. And he said that came from, the sports, not wanting to quit, not just wanting to beat somebody, but wanting to kill somebody, and making, and not kill, but putting it in the situation of, having the strongest will to prevail. And I think a lot of times we give up, and sometimes we give up right before a big breakthrough. So thank you, Kenny, for sharing, giving us that advice, and being my guest. Thank you also to the Fearless Authenticity production team for making this pod happen. And thanks to you for listening and supporting. I appreciate you so much. Please follow me at JM Sparrow on Instagram and Twitter. Like, rate, review, download, subscribe, and share wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube for the video version. Also, send in your comments, your questions. I want to hear from you and hear what's going on in your mind, your authentic self. It's not worth it if we don't share. This has been Fearless Authenticity with Jeanne Sparrow. Thank you so much, and I'll see you soon.